There are many aspects about us that are what is called neoteny. Do you all know what neoteny is? It's retention of infantile characteristics into adulthood. And if you look at the ratio, for instance, of our skull size to our body size and compare it to other monkeys, we're like juvenile monkeys, even in the adult form. We appear juvenile in our proportions. Our hairlessness. Other monkeys are born hairless, but then they quickly grow body hair. We don't. We retain the juvenile characteristics. And this is probably, when you encounter it in other animal life, it's always assumed to be a response to mutational pressure. So there may be progressive juvenilization going on in the human species. If sex gets any more dangerous, I think probably it will be eliminated as a method of reproduction, and we'll go to vats. And this will further exacerbate this tendency toward neoteny. The way in which we permit and encourage a larval relationship to television, and the fact that television, the content of television is so idiotic. They say it's now down to being geared for the average 11-year-old. My 11-year-old is bored to death with TV. So this is a neotenization that is culturally sanctioned. We're accepting a kind of society where millions and millions of people have very simple thoughts and spend all their time in a larval state imbibing manufactured data streams that come to them over the boob tube. This is not a pretty picture, actually. I mean, these people are not entirely human beings. They would, I'm sure, rise in holy wrath if they heard that, but they never will hear it because it's not going to be broadcast on any channel they watch. Yeah.
bastard place. It's a bloody holiday camp for thieves and weirdos. All the rubbish. You age prematurely trying to sort some of them out. Try and protect the public, and all they do is call you fascist. You nail a villain, and some punched-up, pinstripe Amster barrister screws you up like an old fag packet on a point of procedure. Then pops up for a game of squash and a glass of Madeira. He's taking home 30 grand a year, and we can just about afford 10 days in Eastbourne and a second-hand car. Ah, it's all bloody wrong, my son.
It's been split down into all of these sub-projects, and they're all working in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
Just manipulating the internet, essentially, with some very crafty techniques.
It's terrifying if you think about it, really. I mean, Underpass is a JTRIG program that changes the outcome of online polls. And we've discussed before how polls can they can intimate rather than report. Do you know what I mean? If
they can influence your opinion if you see a poll.
Yeah, if it's 100% of people think this, then you're less likely to go, actually, I'm going to go out in the street and be the one person that says no.
It's normative conformance, I think you call it.
Absolutely, yeah. Badger, which is a mass... It's a mass email swamping, so it's DDoSing, basically, where you just you destroy a server by hitting them with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of documents. Right. There's Warpath, which is exactly the same thing, only with SMS, like text messages. It'll mass delivery a text to jam up a device, or alternatively, they can mass send out text or emails that promote a certain story or whatever. Silverlord disrupts videos on Vimeo, YouTube, Skype, anything like that. Miniature Hero disrupts Skype as a whole. So basically, if your Skype call's going down, it could be bad connection, it could be J-Trig.
Yeah, just want to interject on that one. Miniature Hero, it's called, disrupts Skype calls. So someone can externally eavesdrop on Skype, and if they want to kind of make it look like the line's gone. Or it's... Now, I've noticed this on Radio 4, right? It's maybe something slightly different, where they're interviewing someone who is putting the opposing view, and it's doing really well, and suddenly it starts to go, and then they'll say, "Oh, sorry about that, Mr. Such and Such. We seem to have lost that," and you can tell it's a digital call. It's probably Skype.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true, but I just think they've got a button there.
Yeah.
They think, this guy's beginning to win the argument. Right, well,
they have an admitted button. They have an admitted button. It's called Miniature Hero. Spring Bishop finds private photographs on social media, presumably for blackmail purposes. Yeah. Angry Pirate can disable an online social media account or an email account, make it completely inoperable.
Right.
Gateway, that increases traffic to a specific website. Gestator...
Right, just to interject again, Neil, and now that could cause a problem. Like, I put a document on my website that was larger than I'd intended to, and encouraged people to download it. Zumph, my website went because I went straight over the bandwidth. So that internet service providers or hosting companies will take your website down if you go over a bandwidth. So falsely increasing the traffic is a way of getting rid of a...
Well, it can work in either way. It can direct people towards it because that's a favourable site, or it can, as you say, destroy the site by basically overloading it and making it fall out of its parameters. Gestator is a program that promotes a certain message or trope or story or theory. That's the one where basically they'll push false stories through the internet. Changeling. Now, this is a really scary one. Changeling sends emails from your account that are indeterminable. So if they wanted to discredit you, they could basically plan porn on your computer remotely, send that via an email, and you're all of a sudden on the sex offenders register. And that's absolutely 100% admitted. And the J-Trig is one program. J-Trig, now all of those are part of J-Trig, which is a GCHQ type operation. It was a GCHQ operation. There are lots of similar programs that exist via US intelligence.
Just to go back, Gestator promotes a certain message, trope, story, theory. Flat Earth?
Could be. Could be. And there's a few. I mean,
We're not going to go into that.
No, let's not. Let's not open that can of worms. But, there's a few theories, tropes, whatever, that are becoming very popular. And I'm certainly of the opinion of, I'll put it this way, okay? Any theory where you know what's happened before you've looked at the evidence is crap. And I think there's a lot of promotion of that. This is this. Prove it. Not let's find out what happened. Saying that this is what happened, okay? And then just looking for evidence to support your case. And I think a lot of that comes off the back of manipulation via this type of program.
Are you there?
Yeah.
So, every time they tweak the recipe, they slightly improve upon the quality of the task at hand for each gene pool. And they tweak it not knowing exactly what is the best outcome, and usually go past the point of what they were looking for. And at that point, they have to stop the tweaking designed to improve and start tweaking in the context of returning back towards the center point where they began, hoping to find the best place possible. Unfortunately, that leads to them going past the point that they consider best and have to again reverse the process. If you look at the context that Noah's Ark is a story written in the year 2900 BC. Therefore, 4,900 years ago. And what it demonstrates is, at one stage of the game, having realized that they had gone too far in returning, and where they had turned backwards from was more in line with what they had wanted, they now had a gene pool of humans they had created over approximately 500 to 600 years that they had no use for. And therefore, their remedy was a flood.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again.
You read in a newspaper have no attribution at all. It'll be a spokesman for this government department, an official for the police, but nowhere would it have a name. Most people don't notice this at first and then think, well, who cares? Who needs to know the names of these people? There's only really one reason why they would be anonymous, and that is to avoid accountability for what they say. If they were confident about what they're saying, they would put their name behind it. End of story. I was trained, as all American journalists are, that you always name your source. It's a really key point. Now in Britain, the way information disclosure has evolved is that it's a patronage system. It's who you know. And if you know the right people, they'll do you a favour, they'll give you a few little bits of info. If you do name them, there will be some bad feeling held. If you were a parliamentary lobby correspondent, for example, you'd quickly find that people would stop speaking to you. The danger is that because they know their name is not going to be linked with that statement, there's a temptation to bend the truth, to misrepresent the truth, sometimes to just outright lie. Probably the best known example is John Charles de Menezes, the Brazilian electrician who was shot to death in Stockwell Tube. The first thing that happened was some anonymous police spokesman realised it was a mistake. But what they did was they started to run a lot of erroneous information. They were sort of casting this aura of suspicion around him, saying that he was wearing this big puffy jacket, that he'd vaulted the barriers. They also said that the police had identified themselves and they told him to stop, and he ignored them and he'd run through and got on this tube carriage.
They followed him into the station, told him to stop, and when he ran inside a tube carriage, they opened fire.
When they finally had the public inquiry and all these statements were looked into, all those statements were totally false. They were, in fact, lies.
Today's report into whether the police lied about the shooting found that Scotland Yard did mislead the public.
Because we never knew by name who had issued these statements, there was nobody that we as the public could go back to and say, who do we call to account? Forest Gate, another example. Again, it was a botched operation that took up, an entire street with dozens of police officers. They arrested these two men. One of them got shot in the scuffle. Then the smearing started to come into the public domain. There was accusations about how they'd been involved in terrorist activity. One of the brothers of the suspects who'd been out at a protest pictured next to a man wearing a sort of mock suicide belt. And obviously the implication is these are the kind of people we're dealing with. Out of nowhere came this really bizarre accusation that one of the brothers had access to pornography.
A computer seized then was examined and allegedly contained photographs of abuse downloaded from the internet.
Which she totally denied, and there was never any evidence to prove this, and that charge fell away. So then you have to wonder, why did all these charges build up? Anonymous sourcing allows that kind of smearing to happen. The line that they will put out is that we're providing public information, but they're not. That is a total crock. What they are providing is information control, which is completely the opposite of information sharing. As soon as these official spokespeople are named, they're individually accountable, and very often they have to resign. I mean, people think the British press are these, jackals, but the way they just roll over and accept it as if it's fact, as if it's like the word of God has come down and said, this is the way it is. But it isn't a fact, it's what somebody in authority has said. And that's what the public need to know. This is what somebody in authority, preferably named, has told us.